Okay, fourth topic, mode of entry. So we picked our strategy. It's business level strategy, vertical integration, diversification into new product markets, international into new geographic markets. The question that remains is, okay, so how do we enter these new markets? So we have these three alternative choices: internal, merger acquisition, or alliance. Just a quick refresher is a mode of entry really plays a supporting role to your strategy. So based on your strategy, you're trying to figure out a way to strengthen your strategic position. Differentiation. You want to charge a higher price, so how can I differentiate better? You want to charge a lower cost, you want to have a lower cost structure. How do I become a cost leader? And your mode of entry should be something that helps facilitate that. Your mode of entry might be something that helps you to augment your internal value chain. You need resources, you need new capabilities that you don't have, and you want to accumulate these resources. How are you going to do this? Internally, through an acquisition or an alliance. And externally, how is this going to help you, to handle Porter's five forces? How does this acquisition, alliance, or internal venturing, how does it help to reduce competition? How does it help you garner new customers and perhaps new suppliers over which you'd have more power? So we're going to run through each of these and kind of look at the benefits and drawbacks. There are trade-offs with each of them, so we want to make sure we understand them. With mergers and acquisitions, you are buying out an existing firm. So the key benefits here are, it's fast. You identify a target, you buy them out, and by buying them out, you eliminated one competitor, so you've reduced your competition. It helps you with your Porter's five forces. Right? The drawbacks: acquisitions are a costly affair. Research has shown, this is fairly strong evidence here. Research tells you lots of things, like drinking a glass of wine is good for you, or drinking a glass of scotch is good for you, and then another study will say it's bad for you, or it's good for reducing your weight, but it increases the risk of cancer. But with digressing here, but coming back to competitive bidding on mergers and acquisitions, there's fairly convincing research here that acquirers on average overpay for their targets. So there's a transfer of wealth that's taking place. If you get acquired, your shareholders become better off on average, and the firm making the acquisition on average is paying too much. So there's a cost to these mergers and acquisitions, are a costly affair. The second concern is that you need a suitable acquisition target. There has to be a firm with the right characteristics which will help you solve whatever problem you're trying to solve. Having made the acquisition, you're stuck with integrating two very different cultures. So there's potential for conflict here, and it might take a fair bit of time before you put the two together, put the two organizations together. It's a large commitment in time, in energy, in dollars. And you might be making this acquisition because you need a particular resource. Google made an acquisition of Motorola, or wants to acquire Motorola. It looks like they're doing it for their patents to strengthen their Android phone, which is, there's going to be a huge battle. There already is a huge battle between Apple and Google over Apple believes that Google has stolen the Android idea from them. So there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, more and more lawsuits than already there. Right? The problem here with the adjunct businesses is Google has bought Motorola perhaps just for the patents, but they're stuck with a lot of other things that Motorola has, which they don't really need. So oftentimes with the merger and acquisition, you make the acquisition for something, and then you have to figure out what to do with the other junk that you don't really need. You have to get rid of that, and that consumes your time and energy as well. So alternative to mergers and acquisition is you just develop internally. You don't go outside, you look within the firm and you do it yourself. Its benefits, it's compatible with your own culture. It internalizes whatever learning that you already have. But it's slow. Incremental is a good thing. You do little by little, and you learn, and you can experiment. So that might be a good thing, but it's slow. And if you really want quick results, you quickly want to acquire this capability, internal venturing might just be too slow for you. It encourages entrepreneurship because now one of your managers, the champion of that new idea, gets to be the chief of this new division that you formed, that you've developed internally. So there are lots of good things going for internal venturing. The slow part should probably belong to the drawbacks, not to the benefits. But going to the drawbacks, it's slow, it's harder to make huge transformations internally. I mean, you're stuck to your paradigm, your way of seeing the world. So to make a transformation within the organization is quite hard. It adds to industry capacity. You're not knocking off a competitor as you would with an acquisition, but you're adding to the industry capacity, so you're adding to the competition. This could potentially be a very large commitment of your time and energy into a new project. Okay. Alliance, you don't acquire another firm, you don't do it yourself, but you partner with another firm. Benefits can be much faster if you can identify a suitable partner. You can get this up and running, once you got the contract figured out. It can be flexible, it's less of a commitment. One way of distinguishing between merger and alliance: merger is like marriage, alliance is like dating. So you have much more flexibility, you have less of a commitment. Both parties can agree to go their own way after a while if things really don't work out. It's a lot messier to do if you're already married. Drawbacks, you don't have that much control over your partners. You're potentially assisting someone who's a competitor. The long-term viability is questionable. Just like dating, right? You don't know how long this might last. Your partner might change his or her mind. And it's often hard to internalize the learning. How do you, if the goal of the alliance is to learn something from your partner? The classic case is Toyota and General Motors. They had a partnership many decades ago. Both of them had specific goals. Toyota wanted to partner with General Motors because they wanted to learn more about the US market, and NUMMI is the strategic alliance they had. And General Motors wanted to learn how to make cars efficiently, smaller cars more efficiently. That was their goal. And what ended up happening was Toyota was very good at learning how to compete in the US, but General Motors unfortunately did not learn to make small cars efficiently. They did not internalize that learning very well. So the alliance favored their competitor, didn't do that much for them. So let's recap here. We've talked about a number of different things with mergers, alliances, and internals. I've just taken those factors and put them together here to say, if you want speed, it has to be really fast. Acquisition or alliance is the way to go. The internal venturing is going to take too long, right? If you want more control, well, in that case, alliance may be the most problematic, and you might be better off with a outright acquisition or internal venturing. If the integration challenge is going to be really messy, then alliance is challenging. Acquisition would be the most challenging. Alliance could be challenging too, because there's some amount of integration you have to do with an alliance as well. Internal venturing might be the way to go. If in your industry there's a huge concern with overcapacity, then internal venturing, which adds more capacity to the industry, is probably a bad idea. You might be better served by acquisition or alliance. If unnecessary adjunct businesses are a problem, you really need to make this acquisition, but you're going to get stuck with a whole lot of businesses you don't want, perhaps a strategic alliance might be better to pursue. Consider the importance of flexibility versus commitment. If you really want commitment, if you really want control, well, you don't want to go with the acquisition. But if you value flexibility, you don't know, you're just trying to learn, and things might change very quickly, go for the alliance. Don't go for the acquisition. The last issue is this value creation and this value capture. Right? You work together and you create value. Who captures the value? So I talked about this at some length. In an acquisition, the acquirer doesn't capture much of the value. The target firm captures much of the value. In an alliance, it can be really messy. GM, Toyota captured a lot of the value. GM did not capture much of the value. So those are the things to keep in mind as you figure out what is the most optimal mode of entry for you. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the issues that come up with alliances, because alliances are perhaps the most messy of the three, or most challenging in some ways. There are lots of ways of, there's lots of value creation that's going on. You could co-opt a potential competitor. Co-specializing just means you both work together, you have some synergies together, you could learn from them. You could spread risks. If it's a major project, and a consortium of several firms can spread the risks. And you can pursue real options. That's the flexibility part. You start out and thinking, well, this partnership could be great, but after a while you can reevaluate, and if you find things are really not going the way you want, you can walk away without too much of a cost. It's harder to do that with an acquisition or internal venturing. Some of the really tough questions here have to do with the potential for are your partners going to be working as hard on the value creation? If you and it's like, is there going to be free riding? Are they going to be sending you their best engineers to work on the project? So what do the partners contribute? Are they contributing as much as you are? And who's getting rich? Who's appropriating the value? Are you appropriating the value, or is your partner appropriating the value? It's a dynamic process. So initially you have one set of targets, and as the world changes, as things happen over time, it's an evolving process, and you have to reassess your commitment. You have to see whether your partner is becoming too important, could potentially hold you up. So you really have to be very alert to these kinds of challenges in an alliance, because you don't have that much control. Right? There are differing priorities here. So on the one hand, you're collaborating, you want to work together, but you are potential competitors. How do you reconcile those priorities? You want, there is interdependence in a partnership, but you don't want to be too dependent on your partner as well. Again, finding that right balance can be challenging. There is this issue of trust. You want to trust your partners, and you should, but you have to be enlightened about this as well, because you have to understand that your partners have self-interest in mind, and how do you get past that? So this is realpolitik, not marriage. There isn't much of altruism that you can rely on here. You really have to be smart about managing this relationship. Implementation process issues require consideration. Actually, they require consideration with all three modes of entry. So let's talk a little bit about the implementation challenges. The same levers, beliefs. When you think about beliefs, when you make an acquisition, integration involves making sure that your target shares the same beliefs, right? With internal venturing, that's less of a problem. But with alliances, how do you get two partners, especially one over which you don't have that much control? How do you craft some common set of beliefs that would govern your strategic alliance? As regard boundaries, you want to craft clear boundaries, especially in a strategic alliance, to delimit the scope of what you're doing. And boundaries, are important with the other kinds of other modes of entry as well. Interactive control systems are ways in which you learn about the environment outside. So you need some kind of an interactive control system for a strategic alliance to see what you're learning and how to integrate it with your organization. With the internal venturing and an acquisition, they folded into the organization once they are integrated. So this is really more of a new challenge with strategic alliances. With diagnostic controls, again, more specifically with strategic alliances, it can be challenging to structure the roles and responsibilities. You do want to accomplish specific goals, so you want to make sure that responsibilities are very clearly identified. So you need mechanisms by which you evaluate performance. First of all, you have to define what performance means. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And you need a way to measure and evaluate this performance over time to make sure that you are actually accomplishing the goals that you set out. And some incentives have to be in place so that the partners work together effectively. There's a whole spectrum of alliances we could have, starting with, you have long-term contracts. You could have non-equity alliances where you don't really have shares in each company, but it's just it's more than a long-term contract, but you don't really own equity. And then you could have an equity alliance where you own some equity as well. And finally, you could set up a joint venture like Hulu. Hulu is a joint venture between these media companies, and they all own a stake in it. But Hulu is an independent entity, so Hulu as a company has a lot more autonomy in making decisions. Of course, they do have a board in which representatives from the joint venture partners, they sit on that board, right? With the others, with the equity alliances and non-equity alliances, it's a little more loose, the kind of control that they have. That